Fellow Toastmasters, honored guests, I'm looking out on an audience of experts. Every one of you here tonight is an expert. You know something about something more than other people in this room, than other people in an audience, in a radio audience or a podcast audience. But you're not giving yourself credit for that. And maybe you have not thought about doing a podcast or a radio broadcast. Maybe you've heard radio broadcasts where people are saying things and saying, well, I know more than that. Or I could do a better job than that. Question. What's holding you back? Do you know? You're an expert. Don't make me come down there. All right. I'm coming down there because I have to ask each and every one of you to write on the card, I, and then print your name, am an expert on, yeah, that'd be great, on whatever it is you feel you're an expert. Even if you can't think of something, there's something in your mind where you know more than someone else. Maybe you know how to fix a transmission on a car. Maybe you're the best health expert. Maybe you're a great chef. You're an expert on something. So that's what you need to do. You need to determine what the focus is. And when you're focusing, there's a number of things to give thought to. And if I could ask you to pass these out. I don't have enough for everybody, so a few people will have to look on. And I'm going to go over some things rather rapidly, just to give you, while you're thinking about what you're an expert on, I'm going to go over a few things about radio in general that you may know, or that you may not know at all. Right now, and this is as of February, that's why it's printed the way it is. I could have done PowerPoint, but this is more immediate. There are 228.5 million adults, 18 and above, that listen to the radio. That's 93% of the population. How many here listen to the radio today? How many have listened to the radio this past week? How many last month? Last year? Pretty much 100%. So we've exceeded the 93%, right in this room. Here's another fact. Radio reaches more than TV, live TV, DVR, time-shifted TV, your apps, your smartphone, your video and audio streams, and satellite and podcasts. Pretty amazing. Yeah. Radio reaches just about everybody. And when we have had a week like we've had, where we've had 2 major snowstorms, how do you get through to people? The power goes out. Well, if you have a battery-powered radio, that's how you keep in touch. That's how you know what's going on. But I don't want to leave podcasts out. Podcasts are growing at 1% a year. That's okay. You think, well, it's not that many podcasts, but it's growing. So there's opportunity there. And I would suggest, before you start spending a lot of money on doing radio, that you may want to consider doing a podcast. The amount of money to get into doing a podcast is minimal. The amount of money getting in to do radio is substantially more. And it also gives you an opportunity to practice and perfect what you do and become more of an expert. One of the ways that you become an expert that was told to me many years ago, and I followed it. Go to your library, or you can Google, but if you go to your library, and if you were to take out every book on a subject, something that you're interested in, and you were to read those books over time, or you were to go through those books on a regular basis, guess what? You're the expert. There's strength in that. Because your knowledge base is going to put you in contact with people that have the same interests or similar interests, and you're going to succeed. One of the things about radio in general, and I'm just going to go over some statistics here real quickly. The radio reach, as I mentioned, is 228.5 million adults 18 and over. There's only 216.5 million for TV, 204 million for apps, that's web on smartphone, 127.6 million for video on a smartphone, 67.6 on streaming audio, 35.9 on satellite radio, and 20.7 on podcasts. How many listen to podcasts on a regular basis? How many think that they could do a podcast pretty good? Good for you. All right. Now that you have had an opportunity to put down what you're an expert on, is there anyone out there who would like to share that with you? What you are an expert on? You're an expert on video games. There's definitely an opportunity for podcasts there. Absolutely. Because what you could do is you could share that information on how to get to different levels on a game, what your favorite games are. One of the things that's lacking when you're doing radio and when you're doing a podcast is people look at it very narrowly. What you need to do is kind of like take off the jacket and get into the shirt sleeves approach. Let your hair down. I don't have that much left, so I can't do that. You have to relate to people. You have to share a humorous story or something personal about yourself. My fascination with radio started when I got this as a gift many, many years ago. Does it work? Probably not. I just happened to come across it today. It shows you I probably need to really purge my apartment. But what this is a reminder of, for me, is my love and passion for radio. What I used to listen to. And I used to have this by my ear a lot, listening to my favorite disc jockeys when there was music radio on the AM band. Now the AM band is more of an information band. And what that is an ideal place for all of you experts out there to share with what you know. And there is a way to do that which is called brokered radio. What brokered radio is you buy a block of time. So let's just say you buy a half hour. In that half hour, you're free to sell commercial time. So one of the programs that I work on called Food for Thought is a woman that comes out of Florida and she calls in her program, and it's sponsored by Carlson Labs, which makes fish oil and vitamin products, things of that nature. And it's very structured. She has a focus. She starts her program the same way every week, talks about health issues and the latest research. Then about 15 minutes in, there's a 2-minute commercial break. And who is that for? Carlson Labs, her sponsor. Another 15 minutes, she goes into another segment about another aspect of healthcare. 2 more minutes of commercials, 2 different commercials from Carlson Labs. And that continues through the hour. It's consistent, very important in radio. You can't be freewheeling it, you can't be all over the road. You have to show some sort of consistency, or else you will not be able to build an audience. And I have seen that happen. You can't put the cart before the horse, and you can't do a lot of stuff after the horse gets out of the barn. So what you need to do is focus, and that's follow one course until successful. And by doing that, you know what you're an expert in, you have a clear idea of what you want to say and how you're going to say it to your audience, and make it humorous. There's another program that I work on called the 401k guys. I can't think of a drier subject than talking about a 401k. All right? This is a half-hour program with 2 guys talking about 401ks. But let me tell you, it's very entertaining. They'll come on and they'll say, hey, it's Frank and Ed, the 401k guys. And they introduce one another, and one of them says, thank you for that rousing introduction. And today I want to tell you I got stuck, on the Van Wyck Expressway, and I was coming from a presentation I was making to a company about 401ks, and I get asked the same questions over and over again. And he relates it to his personal experience and about all of the things, if he goes out to dinner, and eventually it comes back to 401ks, and it comes back to making smart investments. So basically what they're doing is they're telling a story, and they're bringing it home to you by focusing on what's important about a 401k. It's about making consistent contributions. It's about not taking that money out to buy the BMW. It's about not taking the money out to go on a vacation. It's money that you should leave there until it's time for your retirement. So the point that I'm trying to make is that it's not that difficult to do a radio program. You already have the knowledge. It's just making that knowledge funnel down to a point where you can talk to people one-to-one. You're having a conversation. There's nothing to fear about that. You face the fear. technology is not to be afraid, anything to be afraid of. You're going into a studio and there's like a lot of equipment in there, and you're sitting in front of a microphone, and you know there might be somebody behind the glass, and there's a lot of things going on, and you see a lot of motion. Focus on what you're saying. If you happen to have a guest, what you should always do is focus on your guest. I have worked on radio programs where the host always brings it back to themselves. And it's an interview killer, because you're finding out minimal information about what this person does, or what they have to say, or what they have to sell. And it becomes me, 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 me. The host looking in the mirror, and it doesn't work. It's boring. It's absolutely one of the worst things that you can do when you're doing a radio program. So one of the things that you may also want to consider when you're becoming an expert is the different avenues that you can go down. There was a program called the Real Estate and Money Show, and they focused on real estate and what to do with your money. But they also had a segment of their program where they interviewed authors. And the authors that they interviewed may have had nothing to do with a financial book or real estate, but it was an interesting segment, kind of like a side note, just kind of like an information piece to draw other people in to listen to their program, similar to what the 401k guys are doing by telling stories about their everyday life and then bringing it back to 401ks. Consistency is a great way to get your message across. And you also want to be focused on what you say so that people will come back to listen to your program. The beauty of being in Toastmasters is that you're working on this all the time. You're working on your communication skills. You're working on your leadership skills so that when you're in the studio, you have control. Chances are you're working with a producer or you're working with a board operator, but they will be able to help you if they're any good. If they're not, you take the leadership role, which is something you are learning to do as being a member of Toastmasters. The Toastmaster International site is a great resource. It has tremendous information that I had no idea until I started looking through it. It has everything to help you hear with your speeches, but it's also relevant to working with radio. And I also believe Toastmasters International has a podcast that they have on the site. On the sheet that I handed out, or that Joe handed out to everybody, there's a list of programs that you can check out. And it's always very important to listen. Listen to your guests if you have them. Listen to your listeners, because if you don't, they're going to tune you out. They're going to go to a different broadcast, or they're going to go to a different podcast. How many in here, in this room tonight, have either a laptop or a tablet? Wow, that's great. How many in this room have a USB microphone? Cool. how many here know of the program Audacity? Wow. Okay. So, most of you are pretty far along in that. An extension cord is always helpful. A USB microphone, this one will probably run you about $100. Okay? There are others that are not as expensive. And if you already have a tablet or a laptop, you're in business. You're ready to go. You can start recording a podcast tonight, because Audacity is a free software program. And it may look very intimidating at first, but that's where YouTube and a host of other sites come in handy. They have these tutorials that make what seems to be very difficult very easy. And there you go. There's even an opportunity there for you. As you become an expert, you do a podcast on Audacity. So you see there's loads of opportunities out there for you to share with what you know and give that information and that knowledge and share it altruistically with everyone you come in contact with. So, while I'm attempting to remember my password, let me hear from you what you're an expert on. Yes?
I'm an expert on me.
You're an expert on you.
Oh, yeah.
Well, that's good. So you'll have a lot of stories to tell people about yourself. And there is a market for them.
Oh, yes.
People always want to know what people are doing. Let's see if we can get. Now I know you're pretty far away from me, but there's an Audacity file. It took me a few seconds to call it up. It's very easy to understand once you get in there. There are a number of digital audio programs. Adobe has one called Adobe Audition, which is great. Audacity is free. That's even better. So there's no excuse. You have no excuses. You need to share your expertise with the world. And as far as podcasting, if you have a laptop, you buy yourself a USB microphone, if you have headphones, you're ready to go. There's a number of companies, this is one of many, that have catalogs and information about putting together equipment for podcasts. So what else are you an expert at? Let's hear from some of the other adults in the room. What's your expertise? Share. Yes?
Before you were talking about it, I put I'm an expert on personal finance.
Okay. There's definitely room for that. There is a large group of people who have absolutely no idea what to do with their money. So if you can translate that into understandable means for most people and tell them the basics, and you you visit it, you keep coming back to it, because when you're listening to the radio, people don't give it 100% all the time. They may listen and then they may get a phone call, or they may have to have a conversation with somebody, and then they come back. That's the beauty of radio. You can keep, if you listen to news radio, they say the same thing over and over again, every 10 minutes or every 8 minutes. It's formatted, so like, you know, if you're listening to News Radio 88, you know, the top of the hour you're going to get the headlines, you know, you're going to get the traffic and weather 8 minutes after the hour, you're going to get the sports at 15 and 45. And if you like business news, you're going to get it 5 minutes before the hour and 25 minutes after the hour. All of those things are important because that's what keeps people listening and tuning in. I appreciate you letting me share some of my expertise, and I hope that I get to hear your expertise someday.